Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Pammy Out Loud. I am a woman of, how should we say, a certain age, 63, I don't mind telling you, which, truthfully, I always lie about my age, and I lie up, which people go, why do you do that? And it's because I'd rather people say, man, she looks really good for 65, instead of she's a tough-looking 48-year-old. But anyway, I am here to talk to you today about the things that I am passionate about, and that women and men that are going through this time in their lives are also passionate about. What I think about in this time is that we are in a period of our lives that we sometimes feel invisible. I've talked to a lot of my friends about this. We say we have the more discretionary income. We have more time on our hands probably than at any other point in our lives. And yet we feel like we're invisible and that no one is paying any attention to us. Okay, I will admit we're not turning heads like we used to, girls, but it is not a time for us to shrink away. You know what I mean? So anyway, I come to you through a very interesting route in that my therapist told me I needed to start my own podcast. Now, I am not too sure what that means when your therapist tells you should start your own podcast. Like, am I that crazy? Do I have that much to say? But truthfully, I have benefited throughout my life by talking with therapists at different points. And last fall, I walked in through the door of Dr. Sarah Kyle, who is one of Shody Media's own podcasters. So tune into their Get Dateable AF podcast and listen to what her and her co-host Rachel have to say about dating on the lesbian scene. Now, I'm not a lesbian, but I get a lot of great information from that show. I'm not going to lie. So I think it's a show for everybody. It's enlightening and it's fun and it's upbeat. And I think that it's something that y'all should all take in. Anyway, rewind. I'm at Dr. Sarah's office. And we are talking one day, and I just sort of kind of casually say, you know, I've always wanted to do a podcast. And before the words were out of my mouth, she's like, you should do a podcast. I'm going to connect you with the people that are going to make it happen. And the next thing I knew, I was having coffee with Shelly, and then I was being interviewed by her and her sister, Shody. And I now have headshots and microphones and all kinds of gizmos. And it's become this real thing. Despite me dragging my feet, I don't want to do anything unless I can do it perfectly. Do you know what this results in? A lot of nothing being done. I have a lot of great intentions and nothing gets produced. So thanks to Shelly, she keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. And so here I am this morning. What do I hope this podcast is? Well, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I am the youngest of 4 girls. I was raised by 2 parents that have been and are still married to each other. They met in kindergarten and they have been married for 72 years, still live in their own house. And I am the youngest of their 4 daughters. I tell you all this because I think it really informs who I am. I do think your birth order has a lot to say about you. For me, it's meant a lifetime of look at me, notice me, see me. I tend to be a little too loud and a little too much. Sometimes this has caused me to feel embarrassed and shamed. I'm not going to lie. It's funny how I still can recall Mrs. Sanders, my 5th grade teacher, writing on my report card, Pam is a good student, but a little chatty with her neighbors. I still am a little chatty with my neighbors, but I believe that by being out loud and talking, I have been able to forge some powerful and life-enriching conversations and connections that have so informed who I am and created amazing growth opportunities. So I think it's in living my life out loud that I have had a rich and wonderful life. And sometimes it has hurt. I'm not going to lie. You know, my husband Brian, who you'll hear me talk a lot about, Brian one time said to me, we were talking about your life, Pam. He goes, think of your life as a pie. You are a whole pie person. And I said, what the hell are you talking about? And he said, well, most people, when they meet people and if you look at your life as a pie, they hand people a little piece of the pie and they say, they wait to see, what are you going to do with the piece of pie that I've given you? Are you going to savor it, protect it, put it in the refrigerator, keep it safe and moist and wonderful? Are you going to share it with a lot of other people? Or is it going to get thrown back in your face again? And then kind of based on whatever piece of pie, whatever the person does with the pie, they then decide, this person is a good person to share more of the pie with. So he said, you, however, are a whole pie person. You do not wait to see what people are going to do with the pie. You are all in. You give them your whole pie. And then he goes, and then sometimes you're really hurt by what they do with it. And while that's very, very true, I also have to tell you, it has been an amazing source of great benefit in my life. And it has given me some of the most authentic, real relationships, because I've been willing and vulnerable to share more of myself than people are comfortable with sometimes. I think that when we do that, we are saying yes to connections. And this is a topic you're going to hear me talk a lot about. I'm at a point in my life where we're dealing with lots of transitions. Sometimes the transitions are joyful, like retiring, becoming mothers-in-law, becoming grandmothers, moving to new communities. All of these things, they're very joyful. But they also are a little bit nerve-wracking, right? You think, how am I going to do this now that I am changing my community? How am I going to meet new people? How am I going to find where I belong? What the hell am I going to do with all my time? And does it even matter? Do I even matter anymore? Am I important? Have I lost my identity? So many of us, when we're raising our children, we're thinking about their needs and what's going on in their life and what comes next. We are worried about their grades, where they're going to college, are they going to get a job, who are they meeting? Our whole circle and our identity, in fact, is built around this in many ways. When they leave for college, this changes, it shifts, and we're still actively involved in it. But then when they launch, and I'm not going to lie, here's the other part. No one really talks about how it changes when they go away. And particularly, I'm going to say, I'm the mother of 3 boys, and boys do it a lot differently than girls do. I was raised with all girls, so I kind of expected that scene. And then when I find my boys have launched, it's been very different and hard sometimes. And we don't really talk about what that looks like. And sometimes we take on the role when they get married of the needy mother-in-law, which we don't want to be. And that's where I think a lot of that particular stereotype comes from, is because no one's told us how it's going to look. And so we're struggling with, am I still important to you? While they're not even thinking about it. I'm just going to tell you that. They are not even thinking about it. I, in fact, was talking to my mom, who I still turn to for advice at 93, about not getting the kind of communication from my son that I wish I would have. And I said, I don't know, Mom, I just wonder sometimes if he still loves me. And she said, oh, Pam, don't be silly. And she said, he is not thinking about you. He said he is thinking about his wife, his job, his golf game, what he's going to do this weekend, the mortgage, his business opportunities. He is not sitting there wondering, gee, I wonder if my mama knows I love her. Okay, that was hard to hear, but it's so true. And I laugh at it now because it is true. They're not thinking about those things. Meanwhile, my girlfriends that have daughters are talking about, she's texted me 5 times today. She came over tonight for dinner. She is bringing me the grandbaby on Saturday. So it's a very different experience to be a boy mom. But I don't think that I think both of them have their own unique challenges that we're trying to navigate. One of the things that I have never been short on is people said to me, what are you going to do when you retire? Are you nervous about it? I've never been nervous about it. I throw myself into my hobbies full on. I am kind of a gearhead, which means if I'm in a hobby, I want all the accessories. I want every single thing that goes along with it, whether that's quilting, mahjong, machine embroidery, hiking, e-biking through Colorado, whatever I'm into, I want it all. In fact, I have told my husband that when I die, I expect all the accessories. I expect the police escort, the flowers, the eulogies. I want people crying. I want the luncheon. I want it all. So anyway, you will see that when I am talking, and when I'm talking about things I do, you will hear about every accessory that you need to own. Well, maybe that you don't need to own, but that I've already tried out, and I will tell you if you should own it or not. Some of the things that I'm passionate about that you're going to hear, besides mahjong and quilting, I'm also really into the true crime genre. And my husband frequently walks into the room and says, what are you doing watching this stuff? Who died? Who was murdered? Who was raped? And why are you watching this stuff? And I said, I find it fascinating, the human condition, and why my favorite show in Colorado I watch is I Survived, and they tell these really kind of dark stories about things. But I mean, it can be everything from they're stranded on the ocean to somebody kidnapped them and locked them in a box for 5 days. But what strikes me the most about that show is how did people overcome that hardship, and what can they do? What can they do? Like, what makes one person thrive under that deep pressure, and what makes other people sink away? This is something that while that's an extreme of it, I'm always looking at that in my own life. I'm always wanting to know, I don't want to just exist. I want to thrive, right? So a couple of years ago, you'll hear me talking about our place in Colorado, which is a new venture for us, and how we went about picking there, and why it was not my first choice. But then how it's just turned into this amazing place for life's lessons. I've learned about how to be a host, hopefully a good host. I'm trying to get better at it. But also, one of the things that it poses as a challenge is, how do you make friends? How do you make new friends when you're 60 years old? And I tell you this because you know what, girls and boys, what I've discovered, at least for women, most of us, no matter how old we are still walking around with that little 13-year-old girl inside of us. We are still wanting to know who's going to sit with us at the lunch table. We still want to know who's our buddy. We don't want to go to parties by ourselves. We don't want to sit alone in a movie theater by ourselves. We want our buddy close to us. And so what happens a lot of times is when you're in another room, when you're in a room with new people, I've described this as being, you think everybody else is looking at you. You feel like you're alone and everybody knows you're alone. Most of them are just so focused on their own insecurities themselves, they're not even noticing that you're there by yourself. So I want you to flip that, and we're going to talk about this and talk about how do you take that situation, that aloneness, and look for the other people. We grew up, look for the helpers in your community. You be a helper in your own community. That community can be your mahjong world, your bridge club, your gardening club. It can be so many places. We're going to talk about hobbies, careers, volunteer things you can do at this point in your life. We're going to talk about my 15 minutes of considering RVing across the country. After 6 months of talking about, hey, we should do this. My husband and I walked to the RV dealership, walked in, and we said, in 15 minutes, we have a little too much stuff for this. This is not for us. So, but it is for lots of people. So anyway, we're going to talk about a lot of these things. You know, I was talking to you about my mom and dad, and they taught me many great lessons. But one of the things that didn't serve me well is that you put a smile on your face and you don't make waves. You know what that's resulted in? That's resulted in me gritting my teeth a lot of gritting my teeth with a pretty smile on my face. To the point that I actually ended up in therapy over the fact that my TMJ was so bad. And I had my therapist at that point say to me, isn't it interesting how years of not opening your mouth has literally resulted in your body closing your mouth down to the point that you cannot open it? The wisdom of the body, people, is powerful. There's so much you can learn from your own body. And when you start to listen to that ache in your neck, the clenched jaw, the foot that is dealing with plantar fasciitis, when you start paying attention to what that's saying to you, there is so much wisdom. The great thing about being our age is we've had a lot of time to have lots of experiences and to have lots of new time to process what has come before us. I think it's a great opportunity to explore all of these things that we put on the back burner for so many years. The other thing I love, y'all, is I want to get organized so bad. I read books on it. I consume shows about it. I'm into the minimalist theory. I try and I try and I try. And yet it's not something that comes to me naturally. I am an adult with ADD, and we will talk about that. So anyway, what can you expect from this podcast? Expect to hear my insights, but also expect to get some great interviews. I am so blessed to have cool people in my life. I know some neat authors. I know some wonderful speakers. I know some people that have had amazing experiences and have made connections through 23andMe. Little teaser there for you. What do you do when you find out you've got some relatives through 23andMe? So look forward to hearing those stories. I want you to share with me your questions, your stories. And where can you find me? You can find me on social media. As I said, right now, my passion is really about Mahjong. I just started the Austin, Texas Mahjong Facebook group a few months ago. It immediately soared to about 400 members in the first month. And we invite everybody in, whether you are a teacher for pay, whether you want to learn, whatever, I'm there. Come there to learn about Mahjong. I'm also on Instagram at Maj Garage, MAHJ Garage, Maj Garage. You can see my Maj escapades there. And soon to be a new Instagram feed, Pammy Out Loud. I haven't secured the name yet, so stay tuned for that one. I hope it to be at Pammy Out Loud, but stay tuned on that one. In the meantime, I want to tell y'all something else I want you to take a look at. So I saw an Instagram reel the other day, and I wish I had saved it, but it was this gentleman talking about grandmas today and how they are Fifi and Jaja and Mimi and all of these frou-frou names. He says, what's happened to good old grandma? And how grandmas today do not look like the grandmas of our childhood. And what is going on with that? So it got me thinking about my own grandmother. And I have a very vivid picture of her at the time that my grandfather died, with the cat's eye glasses and the bluish white set hair with dippity-doo. And she, the long dress with the pearls, very June Cleaver-esque. Anyway, I can see her in my mind's eye. It occurred to me just the other day that my grandmother was 57 years old in the image that I have in my mind of her. So what I'm challenging y'all to do is I want you to find a picture of your grandmother at the same age that you are now and share that with me. So stay tuned, look in the show notes for how you can connect with me. And remember, live your life out loud, because if you don't, you end up with TMJ issues. Have a great day, everybody.